Mr. ALOT, welcome back to the channel, baby. This is the video you've been waiting for. This is not financial advice, it's for entertainment only. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, drop me some comments down below, and if you're able to support the channel, please click the join button above here. It helps me create content for the long term. Thank you guys. By the way, don't mind the shiner on my eye. I got fouled playing football yesterday. Play football like Ronaldo. So let's talk about our favorite stock, bio-nanogenomics. Do you want to hear something juicy? Well, the Muscular Dystrophy Association has brought some juice to the table. I found this a while ago. I've been meaning to make this video, but if we take a look here, the Muscular Dystrophy Association co-sponsors nomination of Duchenne muscular dystrophy to the newborn screening recommended uniform screening panel. With this disease, if we take a look here, we can see for kids between ages 2 and 3, it affects their lower limbs, it impacts their heart and respiratory muscles later on. Here on the right, you can see the progression of the disease and how they can end up in a wheelchair by even as young as age 15. So the MDA, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, they're really pushing for this to be added to newborn screening. So they've sent their proposal, they've entered their submission. It's been sent to the Advisory Committee on the Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children. This committee is going to be evaluating it over the next several months, the application. The sooner the babies are diagnosed with DMD, the better their health outcomes. And the main goal is, today's milestone is the first step in achieving the Duchenne community's shared goal to have all newborns screened for DMD shortly after birth. They said they will not stop and they'll continue to collaborate with their co-nominators, patient advocate partners, and the entire Duchenne clinical and research community to make the promise of nationwide newborn screening a reality. So why does this matter to bio-nanogenomics? Well, if you look at their presentation, they said that some of the total addressable markets can increase and grow if we look at newborn screening. Then I found an older article on Globe Newswire, and exactly that, bio-nanogenome mapping found to be superior to existing clinical tests for the identification of pathogenic structural variants in Duchenne muscular dystrophy, DMD. And in comparison, relative to next generation sequencing, the authors state that bio-nano provides higher sensitivity for large structural variants with better false positive and false negative rates. Turnaround time and costs are comparable to the aforementioned tests. And if we take a look, the CEO of bio-nanogenomics, Eric Holmlin, said that Dr. Villain shows that in some cases a single bio-nano test could replace or outperform up to 4 different tests, which could not only simplify testing but would dramatically shorten the search for answers. Moving on, you've probably all seen this one before. This is apparent installation of another Saphyr. If you guys don't know, this was in June. Cisco Trader dropped the guy a message. He said, "Did your place of employment buy this unit or is it part of the rental reagent?" And the guy said, "Hey baby, we're not like that. We pay in full." Hell to the yeah, he said, "We paid for the instrument." Like, get that shmoney, baby. So in terms of the conversation over on Twitter, I like this guy. He always tells me to pull my trackies up. Aggressive Risk was asking some good key questions. He said, "Is this at a lab you're based at?" I remember our conversation in December 2020 about the Saphyr. The guy said, "Correct. Me and my colleagues will start doing optical mapping. We are a clinical lab and the instrument will primarily be used to find the disease-causing gene variant in some patients which could not be diagnosed after sequencing with Illumina." And Aggressive Risk is fantastic. She's asking all the right questions. Do you see many instances where Illumina has failed to detect? I'm wondering volume of usage on a quarterly basis, for example. Great, we can do some calculations if he gives up the numbers. I'm eager to see your work. He gave us a few numbers, but not the exact number. He said with Illumina, their approach fails about 50% of the time. They do 40 plus patients per week. So if you're failing 50% of the time, that's 20 plus patients per week in which they can use optical genome mapping. And he adds, but far from all the patients we can't diagnose with Illumina will be analyzed with optical mapping. It's too early to say anything about volumes. But let's make a quick calculation here, quick estimate. 40 plus patients per week. Let's take the low side and just say, 20 of these patients, they fail with Illumina. But before we do those calculations, it looks like they're already hiring. Well, we can see here in Sweden, there's postdoctoral researcher in rare skeletal diseases popping up. When they're looking for skills, they were talking about short and long read sequencing, Oxford Nanopore, PacBio, as well as optical mapping, e.g. BioNano. How do we know this installation is in Sweden and optical genome mapping is there? Because when asked, the guy put a Swedish flag. Now back to calculations, 40 plus patients per week. If we take 20 of those, because 50% of the time they fail, we'll take those 20 people per week and we'll times it by 52, 1,040 people per year. 1,040 people times 500, which is what the consumable currently costs. That BioNano chip, that BioNano flow cell. Then we calculate from this one machine machine, we're making $520,000 per year in gross revenue. And I don't know how much maintenance costs or what kind of other deals they've got with software updates, but just this grows from consumables. Now, Illumina fails half of the time. In the UK, that Illumina, that big giant of a company, landed hundreds of millions of pounds worth of contracts. It's not just this £123 million contract for genome sequencing, but there's been several contracts. Illumina continues to scale up as a business, and in 2021, they had $4.5 billion in revenue, a 40% increase compared to $3.2 million of revenue in 2020. We can see here all the time, Illumina is just continuing to get contracts, they're continuing to get orders as well. We can see here for their next SEQ 2000 service and maintenance, £167,000. Over here, next generation sequencer, £265,000. That was bought by the UK Research and Innovation, and you can see here for each month they continue to get contracts. Some of these aren't that big, the contracts, but others are huge. So let me tell you the whole idea behind this. We can only look at the facts. These guys bought the machine and starting to do optical genome mapping because they want to use it on patients which could not be diagnosed after sequencing with Illumina. Simply, that's the whole reason, because half the time they're failing with their Illumina approach. I don't know what kind of illnesses or diseases they're looking for, but if other clinical labs are searching for the same diseases and Illumina continues to win contracts, people still utilize Illumina's machine, but they need a complementary device. Saphyr looks all the more juicy if Illumina already has its fingers in all the pies and they need a complementary device. I'll show you something else that I found, baby. The new sciencemagazine.com. There is a program or a project, the Joshua Tree Genome Project, using modern genetic tools to save an ancient icon of the Mojave. The Mojave Desert, California, full of biodiversity. Shout out to all the collaborators over at the Joshua Tree Genome Project, because these guys over here are setting their sights on saving the Mojave Desert organisms. They said because of climate change, the Joshua Tree could be in grave danger. Increasing temperatures, increased droughts caused by climate change would put these trees and lots of other organisms at risk. So they want to utilize the ability to access and alter the Joshua Tree genome sequence, which can provide scientists with the ability to control how the Joshua Tree reacts to climate change. They're going to insert new genes into that Joshua Tree to make it more drought resistant, more attractive to its pollinators. Why does this matter to BNGO? Well, they plan on collecting sequences of DNA using Illumina sequencing and PacBio methods. And down here you can see the organization also plans on adding a new method from BioNano called optical mapping. This will help piece together sequences of DNA into a full genome sequence. In other news, the Cancer Genomics Consortium is in full swing. Yasmin Akari used to be the past president, Cancer Genomics Consortium. She's now on the board with BioNano Genomics. And over there we can see that she retweeted Rashmi Kanagal Shamana, and they're going to be talking and discussing emerging data from single cell exomes, optical genome mapping and AI to implementation in clinical labs for immediate patient care. You set the bar very high for the incoming. This may affect BioNano Genomics as well. Apparently there's an act going around called the Proposed Valid Act going through the US Congress, would limit laboratory developed tests. Not a good idea in the fast-moving world of medical genomics. So they were asking people to actually oppose against the legislation and vote. In terms of Eric Topol as well, this guy's a physician scientist, author, editor, and the NHS, the National Health Service in England, actually used him and they said, you know what, can you be our consultant? Can you consult us in how to digitalize the NHS and use all of the new technology for artificial intelligence, digitalization, and genomics? This guy created something called the Topol Review. I can't pop it up because it's like a PDF file. I've been trying to pop it up here, but if you read the Topol Review 2019, you can see what he thinks and how the NHS is going to change and how they're going to implement their strategy into the NHS. Within that, he stated that as whole genome sequencing comes into the NHS, they're not only going to be focusing on genomics for, cancer and rare disease, but there'll be other diseases that are thought incurable, untreatable. And because of gene therapy and gene editing, you'll be able to edit this person's gene and cure the uncurable through these targeted therapies. In October 2021, I was still on placement in the hospital and I decided to drop Eric Topol an email. Hopefully he'd respond. I just wanted to ask him about the genomic scene, but I asked him some very specific questions. So if you want to watch this video, you can see a huge BNGO news. I emailed top scientist Eric Topol. I wanted to ask him some questions about the Topol Review, which was delivering, a digital future for the NHS, digitalization, genomics, AI. I told him that I read the NHS 2019 long-term health plan for healthcare delivery, and I saw that the NHS value the work that he's doing on helping transform it. So I asked him what he thinks about whole genome sequencing built into newborn screening within the NHS. I wanted to ask about innovative long-range technologies to help find structural variants that WGS misses, like long reads or optical mapping. Also, how will AI impact and improve healthcare delivery? And it seems this guy's a very busy man. He's a man of few words. He just said yes times 3. So he said that genome sequencing is going to be embedded into the NHS, newborn screening is coming, and both long-read sequencing and optical genome mapping will be key to finding the structural variants that WGS misses. Recently as well, there was a lot of conversation surrounding nurses and transforming neurology services and helping shape the role of nurses and midwives in genomics. Shout out to this Filipino, Mark Menchas. This guy is devoted to the cause and he is actively encouraging participation in embedding genomic testing into people's practices. He states that genomics and research is vital in improving patient care and that genomics is not just for doctors and scientists, but also nurses and midwives. Now this advert just expired. I should have shown it to you guys sooner, but there was a research assistant for the genetics of eye development at Oxford Brookes University, and they were asking for key skills of optical genome mapping as well. Shout out to this guy too. He's an Indian bioinformatician, Vineet Bafna, professor of mathematics. He's also a director of bioinformatics program at the University of California, San Diego. University of San Diego is one of the world's leading public research universities. This guy is playing a major role in a $25 million Cancer Grand Challenges project. He's going to join a team of international researchers investigating extrachromosomal DNA, a major driver of tumor evolution. And you want to see this using optical genome mapping technology. They seek to clarify the complex interrelationships between these rogue DNA elements and remaining chromosomes. The man of the hour utilizing optical genome mapping. Now in the beginning, people always begging for ARK Invest, Simon Barnett to take a look at bionanogenomics. It looks like Simon Barnett actually follows our guy from Sweden over there. And as more adoption happens, more sapphires are put out into the world. And as more people come out with these kinds of statements and information talking about Illumina failing 50% of the time and them utilizing optical genome mapping to actually diagnose patients where Illumina has failed, then we'll see if bingo rises to the top, baby. Cream always rises to the top. And remember, we've got Saphyr over there in Western Australia. They adopted the Saphyr instrument for FSHD to make accurate diagnosis a reality for Australian patients. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please support the channel by hitting a like, hit that subscribe button, drop me some comments, tell me your thoughts down below. Did you enjoy this video? And is there anything that I missed or any information that you know of? Please also remember, none of this is financial advice. I'm going to catch you in the next video. I'm excited for the next quarter. I want to see bionanogenomics scale up and become and fulfill its true potential. Illumina's got some of these huge contracts, hundreds of millions of pounds, making 4.5 billion a year. And in bionanogenomics, a recent presentation, there's about 15,000 complementary sequences in the world in which they can utilize bionanogenomics alongside these next generation sequences. If that is to happen and there's 10,000, 15,000 bionanogenomics sapphires, how large do you think bionanogenomics will be as a company? Currently, their market cap sits at $451 million, but with an ever-expanding total addressable market and people start to explore and utilize Saphyr for different things, are we going to be seeing some huge growth over the next few years? You tell me your thoughts and feelings, baby. Please remember, none of this is financial advice, for entertainment only, and I'm going to catch you in the next video, baby. Mr. Invest a lot, over and out, baby.